this white light was drawing me towards it, and the wings of angels, their presence just wrapped around me in this intense light. And the thing is, I knew, the only thing I knew at that time was that I was light and I belonged in the light. These orbs, they were floating towards me and coming at me. Some of them bolted with speeds and they went right past me or right straight through me. And some like lingered. And as they approached, I could see that they had different um, inner workings. Some were opaque and you could just see the outer surface of their globe-like shape. They did have a shimmery feel to them on the outside. That showing that they were active and alive. Others were transparent, so you could see that there was life cultivating within them. Everything that was there in that experience was joyful and peaceful, and it was as if the way the earth was supposed to be. It was like ecstasy. It was like a utopia or nirvana. It was complete paradise. And as I was enjoying these flowers, I saw him. I saw this figure. He was off this side of where I was. And I thought, who is this? He had a human form. And I was just captivated.
This is Beyond with Heather Tesch, where we examine near-death experiences and life itself, hopefully making this life a little better.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I am so excited for you to meet my guest today. Hello, Ruthellen Davison Carlton. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Heather.
I read your book, and I don't even have words to say how much I loved your descriptions. And you not only describe heaven and all of these things in it, but you do 6 chapters of it. So I was just blown away with something you said over and over and over again. And I would love you to share it with everybody here. So you were in Haiti and you were doing some volunteering and you were helping some of the poor, you were helping some children, and then you got really sick. So why don't you take us there and then lead us right on into your near-death experience?
Okay, thank you. I was on a mission trip to Haiti. It was my second visit, and we had gone into a little village, La Saline, and just something took place, which I go into detail in the book. So I won't really go there right now. But I ended up getting very, very ill. And one night I came out of the women's room where we all slept and hung out, and I walked into the area where we just like met together, and I felt something come over me, and I pushed myself up against the wall. And I started sliding down it, and I said something like, "Oh, the devil can't make me sick." And basically, I think that had to do with we were in Haiti and there's so much voodoo influence and there's all these perceptions about it. So as I slid down the wall, everyone came rushing by and they ended up pulling out a mattress from the women's room and laying it on the floor. And the people that were there gathered around me because I was burning with fever. And Haiti is a very sultry, hot place to begin with. But I was just burning and burning and burning, and I didn't feel well at all. I don't think I have ever quite felt that intensity ever since. And then at some point, after they laid me down on the mattress, I heard some of the teammates talking and rushing around, and the head leader, Dan, he ended up sending people to go get ice and to help cool me down, which is irony because Haiti and ice just don't go together. And, but as I was laying there, I felt this incredible urge to vomit. So they brought this white 5-gallon bucket, which we use in Haiti all the time to take baths and bring like sand back and forth. And it's a staple there. So they brought it, they set it beside me. I remember it was to my right side, and they helped lift me up. And I rested on the rim, and I looked down at the bottom of it, and I remember thinking that I just did not feel good at all. And I can still see that image of what the bottom of that pail looks like. And as I'm there waiting, these, like, when you are nauseous and you're about to throw up, there's all those waves that you feel, and they were just coming up through me, and I'm looking down, and then all of a sudden something happened. And the hard to describe. And I felt my spirit move and outside of my body, and it lifted up and lingered up in the corner here. And I watched as my physical body fell off of the rim and slumped to the floor. And I saw people like lifting my head back on the mattress and scurrying about. And then this transition happened where I was so disconnected with the scene below that I didn't even really think about them. I um, was starting to be absorbed in what I like to call a DNA strand. It looked like a strand of DNA winding up, coming to a ladder. And along that, there were these little memories bursting off left and right and all around. And I say they looked like little Polaroid snapshots. And I was a photographer in the past, so I believe that a lot of our experiences, when we leave our body, we take our personality with us. We take some of those things that we were rooted in this earth. And so the way I articulate the story comes from who I also, not just who I am in heavenly realms, but also who I was here or am here in this earth. And so they were these flashing, three-dimensional Polaroid snapshots they were living, they were alive, they had light around them and iridescence, and they were just transposing from one scene to another. And um, they might have been like a version of a TikTok video for people nowadays, right? And they were just like, I saw myself. They were all the sweetest memories. Myself as a little girl. My mother did sun-in in my hair, so I had blonde hair. And so there was this young girl, 4 or so, with blonde hair, looking at the sand at an ocean and a beach ball off in the background. And then suddenly there was the viewpoint of the beach ball, and then with me more in the background and just my perspective. And all of these memories were like that. They just ebbed and flowed and ebbed and flowed. And then there was this um, these sounds as this was taking place. And it was heavenly. It was as if the angels were coming alongside and singing as I transitioned from what was to what was going to be. And as that happened, this white light was drawing me towards it, and the wings of angels, their presence just wrapped around me in this intense light. And the thing is, I knew, the only thing I knew at that time was that I was light and I belonged in the light. And during that process, there was this like shadowing that started coming around and circling, encasing the white light. And it grew in like a whirlwind or torrents of um, blackness. And along with that, there were thoughts and what I believe to be different presence of perhaps um, evil and maybe demons and just anything nefarious started intertwining around the light. And I would say that as I thought back on it, is that that might be that tunnel of light that a lot of people see. For me, I talk about it in the book that it was almost like killer bees, where one starts and joins, and then there's the signal that happens that sends out to others that brings them along, and they just start swarming. And it's just an endless flow of killer bees. And the thing with that, there were uh, grotesque thoughts, there were things vying for my attention as I was drawn to the light. It was like the darkness and the light were struggling or fighting for my light, or for who wins at death. And at one point, hey, there was this incredible shaking and this thunderous noise that happened. And it was the voice of God himself coming through victoriously saying, "This one's mine, not this one. This one's mine." And suddenly I was ushered into this great light, as if into peace. And it was peace that is beyond human comprehension. It was the tranquility of all things. The very moment when you are wrapped in a loved one's arm and you feel rest and relaxed and calm, it was that on steroids. It was a mother holding her babe at her breast, feeding it. It was that incredibly nurturing and filled up. It's just peace. It's hard to explain what the intensity of all that peace holds within itself. And as that it was such a sensation. It even had light to it. It had scent to it. It was living and alive. And it was so comforting. The atmosphere was so bright that it was white, but it had color. And I say it's like a diamond. When you look at a high quality diamond, it is pure white. But when the light hits it just right, it refracts colors, multiple colors. And that's what the entry point that I came into looked like. There were little living entities, these little bubble-like, I call them orbs, and they were just floating everywhere. There was breath, but everything was still. There was movement. It was the contrast of everything held within truth. And these orbs, they were floating towards me and coming at me. Some of them bolted with speeds and they went right past me or right straight through me. And some like lingered. And as, they approached, I could see that they had different, inner workings. Some were opaque and you could just see the outer surface of their globe-like shape. They did have a shimmery feel to them, on the outside. That showing that they were active and alive. Others were transparent. So you could see that there was life cultivating within them. Different colors. Some were iridescent and vibrant rainbows. Some had, there was one that looked like the sea of glass. Like there was just water of glass within it. And then this, one came to me and I don't know why, which ones came to me and why others zipped past like the speed of lightning. And as they passed, there were these sounds, these tremendous, vibrations of frequencies and, this power and the light, there was light everywhere, sparks and flashes. But this one came up on me and it opened up. And I like to say that, there's a verse that talks about in my Father's house are many rooms and I go there to prepare a place for you. And for me, these were like little rooms of heaven. They were the entry point to more of the beyond. And, it's like little thresholds, active and alive. And it was just, the sides were just shimmering and it was like an invitation. It was so warm. The whole place, the peaceful place was warm, filled with acceptance. And this one particular orb that came to me was, so comforting and warm and inviting. And it was like an invitation to step across. And so my essence went into it. It engulfed me and wrapped itself around me like a warm embrace. And, the scene inside was this field. There were trees in the background and there were living beings and animals and flowers. The flowers had an exquisite scent, something that I don't think anything can be captured here on earth. And they were singing. They were singing and it was, so full of joy, so full of joy. Everything from the past my experiences on earth was totally gone. I was fully engaged in where I was. And it reminded or mirrored, or earth maybe mirrors heaven. That might be a better way to say it. So there were familiar scenes, but they were epic. They were enhanced. The colors were magnified. Everything was kissed with glory and light and life. So these flowers were so engaging to me. There were stalks of long grass like hay, and they were golden. There was it felt like there was sunshine everywhere. And this one particular area was a little muted gray, like muted gold. And, all of these, everything that was there in that experience was joyful and peaceful. And it was as if the way the earth was supposed to be. And the flowers, for some reason, just really captivated me. The way the straw bent, and it had little dewdrops on it, and the little dewdrop had the reflection of the whole scene within it, and the light that absorbed everything was it was intoxicating. It was like ecstasy. It was like a utopia or nirvana. It was complete paradise. And as I was enjoying these flowers, I saw him. I saw this figure. He was off this side of where I was. And I thought, who is this? He had a human form. And I was just captivated by how striking he was. And at that point, I hadn't seen any other human form. So I was curious, like, who could this be? A human in heaven? And so as I sort of moved towards him a little bit, and I was just stopped, just taking him in, and he was leaning up against a fence rail. And he was very casual, very content, very comfortable and at peace. And I remember he had his left arm like leaning up against one of the rungs, and his left leg was straight. And then he had his right hand kind of like looped on his belt loop near his pocket, and his right leg was lifted up, and he had cowboy boots on. And one of his cowboy boot on that right foot was up against one of the rails as well. And he had a cowboy hat on. And he had a Caribbean blue. It had different colors, but it had mostly like Caribbean blue shirt on. It was rolled up at the arm cuffs, and he had a t-shirt on, and I just looked at him, and his head, like, he paid me no mind. I know he knew I was there, and his head was tilted up like this, just like looking, eyes closed. The brim of his hat was over, so I'm assuming his eyes were closed. But it was over his eyes, and he was just looking up, but then he started kind of sniffing in the air, like, and he caught my scent. And it brewed such an intimacy within me. He knew everything about me. When I was a little girl, my grandfather would, when he hugged me, he'd come right up near my neck and go, and I do that to people now. And that was such a connector. And then suddenly, he decided, after smelling me in the air, he decided to leap over the fence and walk away from me. And my essence, like that part of the core of who I am, was like, oh, where were you going? Don't leave me. And this sound just came to me, this knowing. It was a thought, it was a sound, it was words that I understood, but that were different from English, that said, I will never leave you. And he continued on, and everywhere he stepped, everything came alive. His boot, when he leaped over, it struck the ground, and it hissed and it earthquaked, and out of that, sparks of light and illumination. They refracted off of each other. Fireworks wouldn't even be close. The grandest New Year's Eve display would not even come close to the extravagance of light and energy, the energy that was, I want to say forcefully, but it wasn't in a negative, forceful way. It was just this intensity of energy that brought life. The trees started to have this, the peripheral of their leaves, this aura, coloration, uh, blues and greens and pinks and reds and yellows, just ebbing and flowing and going out and coming in, and the stalks of the grass all bowed in the presence of this being. And the sun, what I realized, what I thought was the sun, was just a muted reflection of him, because he truly was the full light of all that was taking place.
Okay, that seems like a good stopping point. There is so much more to this encounter and so many other things that we cover. Here is just a little look at what's ahead.
His eyes were dark color, and they held all truth within them. They were dark. I couldn't describe the actual color, because it was truly like the window to his soul, to his essence. It was everything: Genesis, the beginning, the end, all encompassing, all the wonders of creation and galaxies, all within these dark eyes. And as he approached me, I'm like, it's Jesus. Of course, it's Jesus, right? there was another being that was just like the cosmos. It had a form to it, but it was like the galaxies, just all light everywhere, light just radiating out, little dots all over of celestial galaxies and stars, and um, there were forms that I didn't recognize. There was this, and the rational mind back on Earth is trying to make sense. But, some things we don't have, when we come back, we don't have full privy to anymore. It's just the recall of how extravagant love is, to allow this glorious experience, because love was the substance of all of heaven. It just was saturating through every experience, every moment, every particle that was there, every creative being, which, we think that it's us and angels, but there are these magnificent, indescribable otherworldlies out there, other beings.
Okay, that was a small look, but I can't even begin to tell you how much is coming up. There is so much to her story and her experience and all of the things that she saw. In fact, it was so much that I couldn't fit it into 2 episodes. So this is a 4-part series, and it is worth coming back for each episode. It really is. In the meantime, what did you think about her experience so far, the things that she shared, the orbs, this encounter? There's a lot more, by the way, coming up. But what did you think? I would love to know your thoughts. What stood out to you? What did you find really interesting? I do read your comments, and I try to get back to as many of you as I can. I so appreciate that. And I appreciate as well if you just want to say, I made it. That really helps me too. With YouTube, you have to kind of appease the algorithm. And so I so appreciate all of you that help me out with that by writing your comments, by giving me likes, and by subscribing and by sharing. That is all so important. And you guys are so great about doing it. So just thank you for that. The links to the upcoming episodes, you can find that in the description. And you can also find release dates, and you can find Ruthellen's website and information on her book. That will all be there. So check that out. And again, I hope you come back. I'm telling you, it is so worth your time. Thank you for being here, everybody. And I hope I'm going to see you in the next episode.
Thanks for joining me on Beyond with Heather Tesch. Please add comments and questions you'd like future guests to answer. Also, if you liked what you heard, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. That'll help keep this podcast going. You can also go to Beyond with Heather Tesch to look for more episodes.